Ryan Clark, when you hear Ron Rivera yesterday saying that one of the things that Cam Newton has dealt with during his career is the pressure of being a black quarterback, what are you hearing when you hear him say that?
I think Ron Rivera is absolutely right. And him himself being a minority, I know he could speak to that as well. But when you look at Cam, it's not only the pressure of carrying communities, it's also the pressure of changing the way that black quarterbacks are perceived. See, people expect quarterbacks to move a certain way, talk a certain way, behave a certain way, and play a certain way. And this isn't just made up. It's because most of the franchise faces, most of the big-time quarterbacks have been white quarterbacks. And so you get used to that feel. And so now Cam is a guy that dresses more like a primetime or a DB. He plays the game more like a wide receiver. He dances. He has fun. He is a black quarterback that embraced our culture. And this is nothing against quarterbacks who kind of fit that mold, but we don't hear these things from guys like Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes because I think there's a little bit more familiarity with the way that they play, also the way that they sound, the way that they behave. Cam Newton is away from that, so I do believe that he's carried that. There's also the part of that when it's not familiar and sometimes when it's black, people wanting to see you fail. And that's why I believe that Cam Newton will have the most pressure on him of anybody this year. I think the Cam Newton signing takes pressure off of Bill Belichick because there will be people watching and people looking in. There will be people covering just to see if it fails, just to see if it doesn't work. So they can say that Cam Newton didn't conform to the Patriot way. And throughout his career, even in his evaluation as a quarterback coming out of Auburn, even though he was the Heisman Trophy winner, clearly the best player in the draft, we had notes and we had rumors and rumblings that people didn't like the way his smile was. Those are the things that Cam Newton has had to deal with. So replacing Tom Brady and living in that shadow will be nothing compared to what Cam Newton has had to do as not only being Cam Newton, a Heisman Trophy winner, the first overall pick of the draft, a Rookie of the Year, and an MVP, but what he's had to be as a black quarterback who was not only black by color, but black by culture. And being black by culture makes you different, it makes you unfamiliar, and it puts a target on your back for many of those who don't understand, who don't want to understand, and who refuse to root for you.
It's a really interesting thought because I think it is inarguable that there has been, in some quarters, a reluctance to fully embrace Cam Newton, whether it was how good a player he was or the leadership that he showed in the community. We sat here and showed videos of him showing up at hospitals with kids and all that kind of stuff, and yet that always seemed to be at maximum part of the story with Cam and frequently not even the biggest part of the story. Marcus, what do you think?
Gee, it goes back to what Ryan said. People want to be comfortable, and Cam made it uncomfortable for people that thought things should be a certain way. I loved his individuality. I didn't love all of his outfits, but I loved his individuality. I love the fact that Cam did Cam. And that's what you have to respect about people, man. Like, and I've had this conversation a million times, and I was actually at Tim Tebow throws a golf tournament every year in Florida for his charity, and Cam was there. I had the opportunity to talk to him. You know, he's one of the most giving people I've ever met. One of those guys that if you don't really know him, you cast judgment and you have it totally wrong. When I was young, G, and I tell people this all the time, my favorite athlete, and everybody knows it, is LeBron James. But something in me doesn't want to meet LeBron James because if I do and he's a different person, it's going to taint what I think about him. People already formed what they thought about Cam Newton prior to ever knowing him. So me having the opportunity to talk to him, I know what kind of guy he is. And then let's get to the football part, right? This is the football part. And this is why we're having this conversation. And as harsh as this may sound, what I'm about to say is just the reality. Black quarterbacks are known to be mobile and to be able to create off the cuff. That's what made Cam Newton great. That's what made everybody embrace Cam Newton as a quarterback. And the fact that he has these injuries, it diminishes that. And that is what makes teams fearful. Is it right? I don't know. But I know that every team that I've come in contact with, even the Dallas Cowboys, who I had to negotiate with, brought up 2 torn meniscus in my right knee and the possibility of me not being the same player. I think this contract has a lot to do with Cam Newton's health. There is no doubt. If there is doubt, they're dummies. Like Rex said prior, If there's doubt that Cam Newton can play and start in this league, if healthy, that's just dumb because he showed you he can year in and year out. The bottom line is this. Cam Newton is a really, really good quarterback when healthy. The second part is Cam is an individual. People need to embrace that and not try to make him conform to be in this comfortable bubble that RC just explained so well to make everybody comfortable with who their quarterback is. The dude balls out. He helps his community. He does more for kids than probably most guys in the league. And also, you know what else he does? He uplifts his teammates around him, which is one of the most important parts about football that I've ever known this game to be. Cam Newton straight. Y'all just come on to terms with the fact that he is going to be who he is.
Rex, what are your thoughts?
Well, I just think it's so disappointing to me that we're still having the same conversations that were said when Randall Cunningham was a quarterback for my father. Like it's a joke when you look at our last two MVPs. Patrick Mahomes,
Lamar Jackson.
Literally, Lamar Jackson was last year's MVP. And so when you look at him with Pat Mahomes, those two guys right there were MVPs of the league. I mean, who cares what the skin color is of a player, of a quarterback, or whatever? It makes no dang difference. Let's judge for the player on the field. And when you talk about people with movement skills, the quarterback position, it's not just African-American quarterbacks. I mean, why is Roger Staubach the player he was? Why was Steve Young the player he was? That, to me, that's what you want in a quarterback, whether he's an African-American or he's white.